is Chef Selassie Atadika from Ghana. I think she's already online. Hey, Selassie, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. And it's great having you here in our live show this morning. Let us first start with a good introduction on your work, because you have been working at the United Nations for quite some while. And then you started your own restaurant in Accra in Ghana. And that restaurant also functions as a research institute, and you're working with local food producers and actually promoting the local Ghanaian cuisine in Ghana. So can you please tell us a bit more on your work before we, discuss with Stefan about the role of taste?
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, I moved back to Ghana after working with the United Nations. I felt that food was something that kept bringing people together. And there's something about food in terms of just being a convener, but also the links of all the people, from the people that are growing the food to transporting, to processing, to preparing the food, and then to those who are eating, that really creates this link. I also saw opportunities for more economic change as well that could happen through food. And so when I started the restaurant, it's been an amazing opportunity to really understand the challenges that we have in the food system. I think starting out, it was a bit naive. And after so many years now working in the system, I can really understand and seize the bottlenecks and the challenges, the issues around supply and demand, the issues on the politics and the policies that are affecting how we eat. And so it's actually really supported me to want to do more in terms of the social change that's needed for us to actually have this food systems change happen.
Yes, and do you recognize what Stefan is talking about, actually having taste being, a social structure, but also having this, political structure in it? I mean, how is the situation in Ghana? Is it comparable with some of the things that Stefan is mentioning?
Yeah, I definitely, I would say that there are a lot of elements that ring true to what's happening in what I see in Ghana and other parts of the African continent. I mean, the example he gave of the tomato is interesting. The tomato, something as simple as a tomato in Ghana, when you look at it, there's actually been a documentary done looking at how tomatoes are grown in the northern part of Ghana, that the sunlight hours and everything works really well there. So let's say Navrongo in Ghana is where tomatoes grow really well. You will find there's actually an exodus of people who are not able to sell the tomatoes. So there's, in the documentary, it talks about this tomato farmer, and she's farming the tomatoes by herself. Her husband left Ghana to find job in Europe because he wasn't, able to make an income and sending money back home to the family from Europe. And it turns out he's working in a tomato farm in Italy, where they're canning the tomatoes and sending it back to Ghana and selling it at such a cheap level that it's actually pushing out those who are growing the tomatoes in Ghana. So you start to see the policies and the politics of how just something as simple as a tomato has such a huge impact on the economy and families and lives. I would even say, to go a little bit further, in Ghana, you'll start to see, and in other parts of the continent, you'll start to see things that are not just not tasting good, but not approved. So for example, there's meat that's been in freezers, commercial freezers in the European Union that may no longer be for European Union standards, and they end up in places like the continent. So we're getting things that are getting dumped into our markets that are not fit for the European consumers. We've got things like a lot of the soft drinks and sodas that are kind of out of fashion, if you will, in a lot of the Western countries. And these companies have the money and are looking for new markets, and they're dumping here. They are finding, people who are looking for aspirations. They're looking for middle-class customers that want to spend money. And this is where a lot of these products are ending up. So it's interesting when you see who has the money for advertising and to push some of these products to where we are. It can be kind of dangerous to our economies and our health systems that are here, that are not strong enough to support sort of the diabetes and sort of the middle class diets that are starting to come up when some of these products are sort of being thrown and dumped in. So yeah.
And how do you go about, because you're promoting the local cuisine of Ghana, and I know some of your work, it's also about ingredients and products that are actually being pushed away by current agricultural systems or by food cultures that are disappearing. How do you go? I mean, how do you go about? Is it the same, like Stefan mentioned, like first, the higher and upper middle class people getting enthusiastic about, this new idea, or how to promote this local cuisine in Ghana in your work?
I think it has to come from many different levels all at the same time. The work that I've been doing, I started working with the restaurant, and some of the challenges that I met were that some of these ingredients are actually more expensive. So local chicken in Ghana is twice the price of imported chicken. The imported chicken is coming from different parts of the world where there are subsidies and or dumping and or facilitation of how they get into the country. And so the local farmers are having a tough time. The local chicken, if you ask them, they'll tell you that 80% of the price of that chicken, and the reason why it's so expensive is because of the feed. So they're actually bringing in soy and some of the other inputs that is actually being used to raise the chicken, and that's quite expensive. So what I realized is that for me to do a lot of these local ingredients and supporting local agriculture, we don't have an economy of scale in Ghana on some products, and therefore those ingredients need to be more expensive. In other areas, we actually don't have a supply chain for those products because they were not deemed for export. And so there was no infrastructure, roads, or transportation available to bring them to the market. So for me to do that costs more. So my model is for the upper middle class because of the financial implications of buying these ingredients. So what I'm saying is that, yes, we need the middle class to support this, but the middle class alone cannot change it. We need to think about a supply and demand structure which allows for example, major consumers, let's say government procurement, let's say, I'll give my favorite example, which is around millet. If we take millet is a grain that grows in many parts of the continent. In Ghana, it's drought resistant. It does not need a lot of inputs. So in terms of nitrogen, et cetera, it's really something that is great for the soil as well. So, but it's considered poor people's food. It's considered what we ate when we didn't have money. So there's a psychological need to get people ready for it, to be excited about it. There's not a lot of recipes in Accra available for that ingredient. So we need to build a body of bloggers, restaurants, chefs that are using that ingredient with new ways. But fundamentally, for that to become interesting for enough people, the price has to come down. Because fundamentally, for a majority of the people to take that on, there needs to be an understanding of the budgetary implications of that and the social justice around that. So how do you make that happen? What if, let's say, government hospitals, government school feeding programs, military, police, anything that has large amounts of people that are consuming, if they were actually committed to purchasing that, then all of a sudden the farmers now would be able to grow it, because now they're looking at growing subsidized corn or soy, which is now being subsidized to promote and push those products for poultry and for other uses. That farmland could now be incentivized to be used for millet if they knew there were off-takers. And they would also buy better processing equipment. Right now, the millet is getting thrashed on the ground, and so it's picking up stones. So what if we, that incentive of knowing that someone's going to buy this by the end of the season is going to allow them to make that investment to get that equipment. So I think if you get a large off-taker or off-takers, all of a sudden the supply is going to improve in quality. And then you can start looking at the middle level consumers, and all of that is going to drive the price down and allow it to be something that more and more people can consume. Yeah. So I think it has to be a multi-pronged strategy.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like doing a lot of things at the same time, like scaling up the production, but also, like you said, like working on the image of millet, maybe at a younger generation, or if people see it as poor man's food, like how do you get it more popular or more accepted by a large group of people? Do you have an example also using taste and the experience of like the eating culture to get people enthusiastic again about this particular product?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll take fonio, for example. Fonio is a grain that has actually, over the last few years, gained popularity, both outside and inside the continent. And sometimes it actually is happening at the same time. But I would say, for example, if I take fonio, I was able to get it in New York on Amazon before I was able to easily find it in Accra. One of the challenges is the advertising and the support for the social, I would call it behavior change. But now in Accra, there are more restaurants carrying it, which means more and more people are ready to eat it at home because they've seen it being used in a different way, or in a new way, or an exciting way, or in a fancy way. And so I think the important thing is everybody in life wants to be aspirational. So unless we can have and engage in conversation on how to keep some of the traditional ingredients and foods and present them in a way that allows for aspiration, we won't go forward. I think that's one of the important things that we need to look at.
Yeah.